Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show, where we discuss growth systems and what actually works in the real world. Today's guest is Drea Lynn. She went from six-figure salary to six figures of debt. What's surprising is that she was already helping businesses improve operations and implement systems. She had the skills, she had the knowledge, she had all the things going right. Everything that she needed to go lined right up, just like we all have this plan that we're just going to roll out. And so she went into, I'll let you tell the story. What happened when you went into to let people know what your plan was?
Yeah, so just taking one step back. So funny enough, some people they come from this entrepreneurial background and they're entrepreneur in nature. I actually came from a world where I said I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I enjoyed getting a paycheck and it's worked very well for me. So I get to
Hmm.
this point in my life though, I actually have decided to take this entrepreneurial leap. And I really believe to this point, I have developed great relationships and have put myself in a position well in my job where I really believe just because you have these connections and you have represented yourself well in a role that as long as you do it the right way, your boss, your job, they will support whatever transition that you have. And so really I made this decision that I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to do consulting on my own. I was working for a fractional CFO company doing fractional COO work. And so I decided I was going to go to your point and go help small businesses building my own kind of coaching franchise. And I wanted to continue because the fractional work I was doing was virtual. So I would continue fully 100% doing that for my job as I was building my business. So I kind of
Right.
set up the plan, had 6 months of kind of runway of savings, and went in to really just share with my job kind of the plan of over the next 6 months, I probably need to be transitioning out because I want to go ahead and start building this business. And when I share with them kind of this plan of what this looks like, okay, 4 to 6 months, we probably need to talk about a plan to offboard. They were like, oh, you want to start your own business? Probably, I think this was on a Tuesday. They were like, probably Friday needs to be your last day. And I was like, wait, hold on, wait, no, that isn't the plan. No. And so all of a sudden, this perfectly orchestrated what it looks like my entrepreneur debut did not debut the way I thought it was going to. So that's kind of what that looked like for me.
How did that feel? You had this plan and like we all had planned. What was that like?
Yeah. And it's so funny, definitely from somebody who is type A personality and a planner by nature. When
Hmm.
you see your plan disintegrates in front of you and you don't know how you kind of see it, you're trying to pick up the pieces as it's falling apart in front of you. It was quite scary. And there was no going back. There was no unwinding after I kind of shared at this point you have to jump. And I had to actually just replan and talk about now what was planned. Now this is interesting, Paul. And I guess you have to we talk about kind of things I would have done differently. And I really actually haven't thought about this until you just asked me because I don't know if it was arrogance or just me being so self assured. I don't think I had a plan B, and I'm a ABCer, but I think I was so self-assured that what I had set out was such a great plan. It worked for my bit. It worked for me, but it also worked for the company. I hadn't fully thought out what if this doesn't work in plan BCD, and so it did make me have to a little bit more in a panic, have to figure out okay what's next, and that is why the next steps were not as smooth and as fluid as what needed to happen. And it was me more so being reactive than proactive as I am launching into this next phase of kind of season of life for me.
Was your husband surprised? What was that conversation like when you came home on Tuesday night?
Yeah. So I'm not married, but my partner definitely let me
Oh,
also take a step back. So this is so funny because I am definitely a faith to kind of walk on faith person. And this isn't the first time. So I'm an attorney and an attorney that spent about 8 years in church ministry. And there's a reason why I'm sharing this. Because I remember the time after, I have my MBA, I went to law school. And I remember the time when I went to share with people that with all of this, I've decided to go into church ministry. And they were like, what? And it didn't make sense to people. Then I remember when I had built myself to this place of, okay, this is the 8-year path of where I'm going. And then all of a sudden it looked like there was another pivot and people are like, what? I say that to say, I think there were probably to the point of my partner when I shared with him, this is what I was going to do. It probably did not make sense to him, but, and he said this to me, he said, I'm so used to you like doing things that don't make sense to me, but when you do it, they work out and they are the move that you're supposed to make, that the support is there. And I am so grateful. And it's really one of the things that you have to make sure that when you are taking moves of big moves, that you do have a supportive system around you, because you will have those
Yeah.
voices of doubt in your head. And you need to be able to have people to lean on to say, okay, atta girl, you got it. You've done this before. I know this seems rough. This wasn't the plan, but it's going to work itself out. And it has been nice, not only to have him, but also just friends and my family to really tell me they're proud of me. And like I said, I don't really necessarily come from a overly entrepreneurial family, but even they are just excited. They're like, it's nice to see someone thriving in entrepreneurship, to the extent where my little sister, who's also an attorney, decided to quit her law firm job and start her own business, which I told her I clearly make it look too easy, because I was like, why? No. But literally, she was just like, you seem so passionate. And she saw my love for being able really to get up every day and build something for myself. And yeah, but it is not just you. And to be honest with you, Paul, that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned on my entrepreneurial journey, is how much it sometimes feels very isolating, but it cannot be just you. You need colleagues, you just need a community of support, because
Yeah.
otherwise you're not going to succeed if you cannot lean on the support of just everybody around you. It just takes people for you to succeed in this.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because not every entrepreneur has that. And a lot of times it's the family that says, "Oh, get a real job. You can't do that. You've got a perfectly good, you're making six figure, you're doing this. Why would you want to do that on your own?" And you
Yeah.
don't have the support and you go, "Gosh, maybe they're right. Maybe I
Yeah.
don't have it. Maybe they don't believe in me." It's when Jesus went into his own town, he couldn't do miracles. He could heal a
Yeah.
little bit, but he
Yeah.
couldn't do it because they didn't believe in him. Their faith
Yeah.
was so low that he's God and
Yeah.
he couldn't do it.
And it's one of the things I write about, though. There is wisdom in knowing when to, having discernment of when to share and to who. Because,
Uh-huh.
like I said, you will have self doubt, and you have to know the right people. And you don't want naysayers, but you also don't need people with a whole bunch of negativity when you're trying to get yourself to a place of working it out. You need those who are going to be supportive, and not those who are always going to just tell you all the things you cannot do. You need the people to remind you of the strength that you have, and remind you of the what you've done in the past, and to build you up. And there is a difference, those people in your life, and you need to be wise. It's not always wise to always share on the front end of what you're doing until you're confident, because you will get people to come in and say, why are you doing this and why you're doing that? And you have to be firm in your why, so you can bring them in to say, no, this is why I'm doing it. So I need you on board so you can be along my journey, because I need you, because people will talk you out of your own dream if you allow them to. So yeah,
Yeah.
I 1,000% but agree with you.
Yeah. And so you go into the office, you tell them, "Yep, this is my dream. 6 months. I'm going to be cool. It's going to be great. We're going to work together. Will offboard me and I'll train whoever I need to train." And then they say, no, sorry, Charlie, you're out of here." Uh, so then fortunately, you've got a support system, which is great. But what kind of doubts were going through your mind? Because you said you're a planner and you didn't have a plan B. What was that like? What was going through your head?
Yeah. And let me say this, and I'm actually glad that you told the story of Jesus, because, and I have underlining thought that faith is woven in everything I do. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if this story, my journey would be different without my faith, because there are times when my doubt is so loud, but because I believe, that I am walking in what I'm supposed to be doing on my purpose. And I feel like I'm being obedient to what I believe I've been told by God to do, that it actually kind of silences some of that doubt. So I just really want to say that because sometimes it does not make sense even to me. Meaning, why would I leave the comfort of this paycheck? Literally, there was nothing wrong. I wasn't not getting along with my boss. It wasn't. I was working virtually. There literally was. There was nothing broken, and so it's just kind of why would you break that? And so really is something where you would be like, was the maybe I should not have said anything. Maybe I should have waited another. And to be quite honest with you, I had tried to time this during the time I also had a real estate investment that was supposed to be closing. This is 4 years later and it still didn't close. So I had that money that I thought was gonna and that never all the things that were supposed to happen, all of them fell through. And in my life, what I've chosen to do, I've chosen to use any kind of resistance or any time that I see something that looks like it's trying to bring me down or try to stop me from success, I really use it as fuel for strength. Because I'm like,
Mhm.
oh no, if something is trying to stop me from being like going to my next level, how can I use that to say, I'm actually going to make sure that I utilized it to fuel me to the next level? And so, yes, absolutely, Paul. There were days where I was just like, when you start ruminating, you're like, oh, I should have waited 6 months, or maybe I didn't need to tell my boss, but then you can't, shoulda, woulda, coulda. You are where you are today. So you can only look
Yeah.
forward. And so you just kind of quiet those voices and you just press forward. And that's kind of what I did.
Yeah. And so now you're unemployed.
I,
But you've got a franchise with
I
no clients.
zero clients.
Right. So what happened in that first week? What was going on in that first little bit of time there ramping up to the clients? How quickly did everything change?
The great part of the freshness of entrepreneurship is that you still have this energy of, I still think for the first 3 months, you still like, oh, yes, all the clients are about to rain down from heaven. So, you start getting the gear going. But there were a lot of early lessons I needed to learn in entrepreneurship. And one of those lessons were what entrepreneurship needed to look like for me. So I did not have a lot of business development experience. And I think at
Mm.
first I was trying to have business development look like what it needed to look like for everybody else. How many networking groups could I join? How many networking events could I join? How many cold calls could I make? And it really was inauthentic to who I was, and it felt inauthentic. And you're not gonna build a business not being yourself. I really needed to anybody who was going to my clients that I have now, they have me because they love Drea. They love me. And I had to be reminded of who I was and had to find myself in every part of my business, in business development. I had to be reminded of the people who had actually experienced me and me helping them in business and reach back out to them. I had to recenter the why behind me launching a business, but then the why behind why would somebody actually utilize me and really figure out a way to reestablish. Because when I say that I was disillusioned with what really went into starting and running a business, it was if having the right vision was 100, I was at a 10. Seriously, I just the amount of effort, the just on all fronts. And you just don't know it until you're in it. Just starting from zero, it's just, it was unreal the work that I had to put into it. But really, I had to start to build relationships. And it took me a little while to really remind myself that's what it was about. It was really just about nurturing the relationships I had, building new ones, and really nurturing those as well.
So you were doing the network thing. How did that feel? What were you thinking then when you were in a room of other people? And did you know what to say? Did you kind of stumble? Were you unclear? How did that feel and how did that work?
Well, no, not from the outside because I'm a talker, I can talk, but to be honest with you, Paul, it felt icky because it was disingenuous. Like I was doing
Yeah.
it from bad motives because I felt like I needed to be there to get a client or to get somebody to refer me. It just wasn't me. So it didn't feel
Yeah.
good. It felt I'm not like a salesy type person. So and I felt like people would feel that. You could feel that I wasn't there because I really wanted to know you or to get to know your business or to know how I could add value to you. And so that's why I was saying it just wasn't me. It was I and I didn't even realize that. And it took me a while to figure out what was the problem because I felt off. I was just like, why do I feel like I didn't belong here? And so then you start having that thought on now because you really talk about kind of that doubt. Because then I'm starting to wonder, do I not belong here? Meaning, am I not supposed to be an entrepreneur? And so that's really what those 3 to 6 months were. The first 3 to 6 months was really just finding my identity in entrepreneurship. What did that need to look like? Because for a long time, I felt like I was trying to live somebody else's journey. I share this with the entrepreneurs that I coach. I say, do not compare your journey to anyone else's journey because if you do that, it would actually steal the joy out of your journey because there's
Ah,
actually joy in the journey, ups, downs, all around, whether or not it's good or bad. There is joy in that experience. But if you're looking to the side on what someone else is doing, it's going to steal the joy out of what is in front of you. And that's what happened to me. I was looking at what others and even other franchise owners, they were getting clients faster than me or what was happening with them. And I wasn't even able to see the growth. I wasn't able to see the people connecting with me. I wasn't able to see the opportunities that were in front of me because I was busy looking at what everyone else was doing.
yeah. So what changed? And that first 6 months was a learning experience, and you had to find yourself. What changed, and what was the aha moment for you
Yeah.
that changed?
So I think two things. One, I'm a generally kind of introspective person. So as I mentioned, that icky feeling, I started asking myself, like, what's going on? And I started kind of doing an assessment of when I felt that way. And I said I was going to start pulling from my life the things that I did not enjoy doing. The things that, why am I a part of all of these networking group that I don't like,
Right.
what actually did I enjoy doing? Where did I enjoy being? So that was the first one. The second was when I got my first client, which was about 4 months into it. It was a referral from a colleague of mine. And I got my first client and we had our first, so with my franchise, we do these full session days. So these 8 to 10 hour days with our clients, their leadership teams. And I remember my first day in the room. And I remember this feeling, and I think I told you before, I was in church ministry. I was in full time church ministry for about 8 years. And I
Yeah.
remember being in that room, and though it was a secular company and we're working on leadership team and vision, I remember feeling that same feeling of purpose that I felt when I was in church ministry. And whatever the
Ah,
reason, that did a reset for me where I realized that I needed to kind of reset kind of what this journey was going to look like for me. And that was the catalyst to me saying, okay, let's start this. I don't think I had a good start. I think all of this, the way I didn't leave my job. So I think that kind of ruffled my feathers where I just kind of
mm,
didn't it land the right way. I thought I was going to come out with all these clients everything did not happen the way I thought. I think I need a hard reset. And so about 6 months in, I gave myself a hard reset. I looked at the areas in which I thought I should focus business development wise in terms of looking for clients. And I thought that would be client referrals or people I knew, other colleagues referring me, but it was all centered around relationships and people. And then I just ended up with a game plan that was more of me centered and not more of what I thought it needed to look like. And that kind of was the reset for me.
so while you were going through this dry spell, ramp up, what kind of conversations were you having with your partner? What was that like?
They got support for the most part.
Mm.
And it's funny you say that. I probably need to ask, was that genuine support in the back of his mind? Was he like, and this was the craziest thing, and I should have told her this, I told you, or something like that. Thankfully supportive, but I'm definitely sure on his end there was just as much doubt and concern and where is this going to get us? Because we were very comfortable with where we were headed to income when it was steady versus now really digging a hole and unnecessarily, was feeling unnecessarily. And anyone would know that there is one of the biggest areas of conflict is usually around financial things. And so
Yeah.
even with me personally, I'm sure probably not the most pleasant to be around when you're stressed about money or finances or clients. And to be quite honest, it was a period of stress and just trying to kind of navigate, even separating personal from, because that's the other thing. When you're an entrepreneur, it never turns off. You get up at 3
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning because you need to write something down or you remember something, or I travel a lot. So it's 3 or 4 nights traveling. And so it's definitely hard for those who are also in your life with what that looks like.
Didn't he have a question? Didn't he have a very question to you that made you really think, okay, I better get going here?
What do you mean?
He asked you, he said, what? I don't want to say it for you, but I guess I will. Didn't he ask you when you're going to stop working for free?
Yes, but not in this. Yes, is the answer to your question. But I don't know if it was during necessarily that period of kind
Oh,
of that
okay.
transition. Yeah, it was more so during the period of, it probably was earlier when I was trying to figure out what the next steps was gonna look. He was actually part of the one of saying I needed to go into entrepreneurship
Hmm.
because what I was doing, what I love to do, I was doing it for free and not necessarily being compensated for it. And it was like, and I think that's where his background is a lot more entrepreneurial. And since my brain isn't as entrepreneurial, it's kind of, oh, you're doing what you love. You don't necessarily have to be compensated for it. Versus he was like, listen, you need to be compensated for what you're doing. And so that's where that conversation was around
Oh, okay.
saying,
Yeah.
hey, and that really is what kind of got the gears turning of maybe I'm saying I'm not entrepreneurial, but maybe I actually am and just haven't put the words in the shape because I actually am working in the systems and the operations around it. And so that's where that support came from because
Mhm.
he's, however much I'm not entrepreneurial, he's definitely entrepreneurial.
Yeah. So month 7 through 11, how did that look? So how much of your runway was left? What surprised you most?
No runway left. So that's definitely because you have to think about my 6 month runway was within mind me still working.
Ah,
And so now all of a sudden I'm not working and I have business expenses. So
yeah.
thankfully, as an attorney, I was able to take on some legal work. So I'm telling you,
Oh,
my plan had to totally shift in terms of, and I hadn't been actively practicing for years. And I was all of a sudden like, oh, I guess these resources. And that's one of the things of where I kind of went to write the book. Cause I was like, listen, you're going to have to tap into everything that you have, whatever resources you have, you got to think through what is it in your past that you can pull through. And that's kind of what I did. That was part of my plan. I had to reset and be like, how do I, cause I went into survival mode at that point. Cause what I did not want to do, Paul, and I'm going to be totally honest with you, there were probably during this period 3 times I dusted off my resume. I did. But that was the one thing I did not want to do because I felt if I went back and worked, I would not go back into my business. And I thought I had made this leap that I needed to commit to it. And so it was like, what I'm going to do everything in my power to commit to where I am without having to go back and work. Now, if that was something I needed to do, I would have, but that was the one thing that I was trying to commit to. So
yeah.
months 7 to 11, we're way beyond kind of saving. That's where we're having to take out debt and having to live off of that. And thankfully now I think I'm probably a 5 client then. And what ends up happening is, but I'll tell you, even that was things unplanned because to get to those clients, I had to open up myself where I don't think I was planning on it to traveling. So now all of a sudden I'm based in the Dallas area. I'm traveling to Atlanta and I'm traveling to Mississippi and I'm traveling to Oklahoma where I definitely, that was not a part of my plan, but I'm kind of like, wherever, bring me money, I'll go. But thankfully, once you have clients, as long as you do a good job, you'll have a referral. And so now, at least now I'm starting to feel some kind of traction in terms of getting some calls of interest and building a business, or feeling, at least feeling now, because before this, I didn't even feel like I had a business. I don't know what I felt like I was doing, but it did not feel like there was a business that was being built. But even still, so now I feel this point where I have clients and I have income coming in, but even now it still doesn't even feel good because I dug myself in debt. So the income is just digging myself out. So I feel like, oh, I should be flourishing because it's like, because I didn't do the greatest job of transitioning. Now I still have this period of kind of trying to repair the damage versus
Hmm.
if I had done it the right way, this would actually be the profitable time where I would be enjoying the fruits of the work that I had put in. And I kind of missed out on that, or it probably was actually delayed a year and a half because of my start.
Yeah. When did things start to finally, when you came to a realization at some point that, okay, now I know what I'm doing? What was that like? And
Now,
what was the realization that you made?
yeah. Now, Paul, I don't, now I know what I'm doing might be a little strong, but to your point, but I think every day, and I think we were talking about this before the call, that
We were.
as a business owner, the art of the pivots or being flexible is what's necessary. You don't know the economy, you don't know whether or not some sort of, you just don't know what decisions that you may make to have to, that you will have to make as a leader, as a business owner. And so I don't know about figuring it out. That's strong. But I would say about 2 years into it, it felt like I actually was in the rhythm of what I needed to do in terms of, okay, now I understand. Here we go. We have a system for, and this is the funny part. So my business is helping business
Ha.
set up systems, and but it's kind of, I don't know if you've ever heard, you go to a doctor and sometimes they're the unhealthiest people. No, it kind of felt like that in some ways, because I'll actually say part of me feeling settled was forcing myself to run on my system. And
Ah,
I
there we go.
said, and so I said I needed meeting rhythms. I needed to make sure that I was setting up 90-day plans. I needed to make sure that I had accountability and accountability partners and to-do lists and cohorts. I had to make sure that I had a coach. And I started setting myself, I almost became my own client. And it was when that happened and I actually put myself on the same structure that I was requiring of my teams, that I actually was like, okay, now this is a little less chaotic. And I started actually enjoying and felt complete in what I was doing. And that probably was the first moment where there was a little call in me saying,
Yeah.
Okay, this is the ride that I was supposed to be on." But that's probably, yeah, we probably were about 2 years in when that happened.
Yeah. So those of you who are listening, if you are a coach and you teach other people to do stuff that makes them successful, do that stuff yourself. Run your own system. And that's what you started doing, is running your own system. What did that look like? And I know that that made you feel a little more calm. What was that like kind of operationally?
But it's so funny you say that, because two things. One, operationally, it set me up for success because that is what the system is, what is my success. I meaning teams bring me in, they're successful off of it. So why wouldn't it work for me? But so
Right.
it actually made me feel more authentic with my team, because actually, which I'm a very, one of the things I think my team enjoy about me, I'm very transparent and authentic. So even I would tell them, I went one year, I went through about 5 assistants, and I was telling them, I was like, I have a people issue and I don't have any problem talking to my team. And so I think me running on my own system, I was actually able to be a little more transparent when we were working through our issues and being able to say, hey, in my own business, this is what I'm experiencing. And I would tell them, I'm saying, I'm even able to empathize with you because this is what I'm experiencing. And so
Yeah.
I think my journey was helping me actually become closer or more aligned with the work I was doing, because I was able to coach even from a better place of authenticity based on what my experiences were. Because a lot of times entrepreneurs and businesses, they bring me in because they're at a place of success, but they found their place of success not from the systems or the structure that was in place. And what happens is you grow to a place where your growth gets chaotic. And now all of
Yep.
a sudden your chaos needs some order. And so there's a
Hmm.
place where you can grow and just doing all the things and not having meetings and not having systems and not having processes that it can work for you. But there will be a place and it depends on you. It depends on your business. It depends on the size. It depends on the industry. It differs for different businesses or people, but there will be a ceiling for every business where there will be a moment where you will need to add structure to continue to scale before it
Right.
collapses. And
Right.
so I experienced that myself and am able to speak from that place as I am working with my teams. And so it was kind of cool to having experienced that.
Now you mentioned, let's roll back a little bit. You mentioned you went through a bunch of assistants. Do you think that if you were running your system, you were already running your operating system, do you think you would have gone through so many assistants?
No, because I think I would have selected better. I think
Yeah.
part of me selecting the wrong ones was because I had not had in place what I needed. And so I actually think I was selecting the wrong people. And
Yeah.
so once I actually had the system and I had who I was, my core values, all the things, I was able to identify specifically what I needed and plug the right person in place. And they've supported me in that. But I didn't even realize what I needed. And so I kept bringing people in who I didn't know what I needed. They didn't know what I needed. And so we just were a mess together. So once there was some order that the right person, I was able to identify the holes I had because I understood them. I understood my strengths. I understood what was working. I understood what didn't work and was able to plug the right person in to fill that gap and to put some in. And to be honest with you, when that happened, man, they added the exponential value they added was crazy because not only it was things that I didn't even know I needed that they brought, but it was only because I had ordered to certain things that they were able to add that. Meaning, had they come into chaos, I think they would have spent so much time trying to get things together. They would not have been able to add the other value that they added. They added kind of AI, brought in different software and was doing that. Just it was an elevated addition versus just kind of basic administrative ad.
Yeah. I think that, and I don't know if you agree with this, I think that if you have your system, your operating system down, then you certainly need to hire people who are in line with your values and have a good fit. But if they can follow your system, then ordinary people can produce those extraordinary results that you get repeatably. It's just if you go to a McDonald's anywhere in the world and you order a fry, it's gonna be the same fry. And that's because when Ray Kroc started McDonald's, he worked on his business. He created a system for everything. And it's still alive today, even including they're really a real estate company. They have a system for buying real estate. They have a system for creating systems. They have a system for bringing people on board. They have a system for creating fry consistently everywhere in the world. When you architect your business or when you build your business and define your business in a way that ordinary people can produce extraordinary results, you can start to scale. You can scale your business. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I'll even add to that, Paul. I think when you do not have the structure and you have not had the operating system, you will actually have people who would be exceptional and the people you would want that will not be attracted to your business. They will come in,
Right.
they don't want to work in chaos. And so you actually will be detracting or turning away the actual type of ideal winners. Or so just what you're saying, the opposite as
Yeah.
well. I agree. So I 100% agree with you. Yes,
Yeah.
ordinary people can come in and they can be superstars, but also just regular superstars. They're not going to want to work for you if you don't have the structure, because they're going to be like, I'm not working in this. And so I 100% agree with you.
So it wasn't the growth that broke, it was the lack of systems that break,
Absolutely.
right? Which is,
Absolutely.
and entrepreneurs don't, when you say you need a system for that, they, especially if they're a visionary kind of entrepreneur, they'll say, yeah, I don't know how to do that. And so they'll just keep doing what they do. So they need people like us to come in and create that system for them so that they can be successful and still be that visionary. Because you've got to have a vision,
Right.
a CEO who's going to be visionary, not being the bottleneck of the business. And that's what a lot of
Right.
companies are. And maybe you were at that point. Did you feel like you were the bottleneck when you?
Well, this is the probably the good part for me. So I am more of a systems type person by nature versus a visionary. So which is why
Yeah,
kind of the, oh, let's dream and think of the, that's probably the part of entrepreneurship I did not necessarily connect with initially. Now I do though. I'm like, oh, what else
yeah,
can I build and grow? But that isn't the part that initially would have attracted me to entrepreneurship. It would, I am the person, give me your vision and let me make it happen. That I
right.
like bringing visions to light. So I think, and it's so funny you say that now that I'm thinking, you got me thinking about things I haven't thought about before. But I actually wonder if for me, it might have been how foreign it was for me to be in the visionary seat that kind of had me kind of out of sorts, that I had to get reacclimated of how to now have the vision and have to make the systems behind it. Cause usually I was used to just somebody giving me the vision and then I'll make it work. And
Yeah,
now I'm actually the one who is at the top. Now I'm having to do the vision in. And so that's so funny you say that, because yeah, I don't think any most entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial companies, nobody comes into it and was like, oh, let me put the structures in place
no,
to go and build. No, they're like, I want to, with Tesla, he probably was like, I want to go to the stars and the moon. But the initial thought was not the how behind it. It
right.
really is the dream first.
Yeah,
And so to your point, usually there are people who natural inclination is the how that takes the vision and kind of makes it happen. And so it's so interesting you say that, because I really think now that probably was the thing that took me a moment, because I am usually the nuts and bolts person. And I probably was in this weird space and had to get back to, okay, Andrea, you know how to get the structure and okay, this is our media rhythm. That is actually what I naturally do. And so I just had to force myself to do it.
why do you think? Why do you think entrepreneurs don't do it?
Well, but I truly believe, and this is funny, I think we're built to have certain roles. And let's
Yeah,
take your visionary. I think there is a part of a visionary that needs to be freed from that to be able to dream big. So
mm,
if you have me too much in the weeds of the how, it may stop me from this huge
the vision.
vision, because
Mm.
I've once worked for what I call a very visionary.
Okay,
And one of my jobs as his kind of second in command was to tell him that's impossible. But in his mind, what he asked for was totally possible. And I'm like, that's impossible. But that's what the business needed from him. It needed him to be able to have this humongous kind of goal, and that is really what drove the success of this business. And so I do think there are these two roles that, and then you need a person to say, okay, give me your vision and I'll get it done. And what can't get done, I'll let you know. And there is this kind of tension that I think, so I don't think it's like a right or wrong thing. I think now, to your point, I do think there is a place, if you're a good leader, where you can have an awareness of kind of what your bent is, and you know the necessity of both, and you say, okay, if I'm a visionary, either I need to learn the kind of the structural side to it, and either find someone to do it for me or learn how to create structure and put the system in place. And then if you're more structured, then you have to kind of teach yourself, how do I think big? How do I stretch myself to dream and to kind of the whole 10x Grant Cardone thing? How do I make sure that I'm pushing myself or stretching myself beyond? But I just think it's how kind of some of us are made, one or the other. What are your thoughts? I'm
Yeah, I agree.
actually okay. I was just
I,
curious.
I, I agree. I'm and have you ever heard of the Colby test?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was surprised when I took it. One of my mentors suggested I do it so we could work together. And I did. And I was, because I'm the guy that makes it work. I can take your vision and make it work.
What are
But I
you?
also, huh?
What are you on
Uh,
Kobe? You
seven,
know?
6, 4, 3, I think.
Okay, I'm 7'5" 5'3".
Yeah. And so I thought I was stronger, had a stronger bent for the implementation side, which I can make it happen. But what I discovered was that I have a really strong urge for the research and getting the details. And you and I both have that. I knew that we were somewhat alike in that way. So that's an architect's brain. And so
Yep.
that you and I both have the brain for, okay, this is the lay of the land,
Yep.
how it all fits together. A lot of entrepreneurs don't have that.
They don't. Yeah.
They don't, but they have strengths otherwise, which is why you need to have either mentors or people to work with. Like you said, you need a group of people to work with to come through that. So to answer your question, yeah, I think that you do need to stretch yourself. And if you can, if you're that 7 and you're low on the whatever personality or whatever role or whatever bent you said you have, having someone else, if you're not the visionary, challenge your vision. That really helps. My wife does. What's your plan for that? You're going to do this, but how are you going to do that? When are you going to stop working for free? Or how come you're working for free now? You're not charging for this. You're spending a lot
Right.
more time here. Those kinds of things. You need someone like that in your team, on your team, and whether
Yeah.
it be a spouse or a partner or a mentor, your coach, whatever that might be, and regular and accountability. So,
Yeah.
like you
I'll
said,
also say this too, and it's something I had to learn more personally than business, is how to also just really honor, though, how we all are made up. And what I mean by that is, there was a time when people would share with me kind of their dream or what they were thinking about. And because, to your point, I am so like the how, I'd be like, did you think about this? Did you think about that? How are you going to do that? And I realized somebody once told me I was a dream killer. And I
haha,
realized what they meant by that was because I had all these, they're like dreaming. And I'm like, these are all the reasons why what you're dreaming would not work. And I had to start to reshape that, because you need those big dreams. I had to have a way of articulating that in a way where no, I'm not saying your dream isn't going to happen. I'm just helping say the setting realistic expectations to the how. And really, we're the right partner, because I think we can get it done. It's just probably not going to be as dreamy as what I think. You have a very dreamy picture of how it's going to get done. And I probably have a more realistic. I still think we can do it. It's just probably going to take a lot more work than what you think. And so I just understanding how those two really sync together is kind of cool.
yeah, it is. So looking back, we're gonna have to wrap up here. Looking back on the last couple of years, I guess you've been in business for now for what, 3 years now?
Forward, going forward.
Or
Yeah.
okay, congratulations for that.
Thank you.
You've made an awesome journey, and it's still going up.
Still
So
going up,
looking
still
back,
going up.
what would you tell the version of yourself back then when you thought 6 months was enough?
Oh, 6 months is not enough. Listen. But once again, I think enjoy the ride. So, just enjoy every moment of it. But I also think I would also say to remember how every single puzzle piece plays a part in the bigger picture. Because
Hmm.
I think there are a lot of times that we may be confused or discontent about where we are today, and that may weigh heavy on us. But if we think about it and take a step back and where we'll end up, or the bigger picture, and how each unique part of our life, and even the good times and the bad times, we would not be where we are, even our successes, if we weren't for that. I think even in the moments where my heart kind of sank when my boss told me Friday was the last day, or when it was 3 months in and I hadn't had my first client, or when I'm having to take out debt, when I wanted to do this debt free, all those times when I had those sinking feelings, I would know also if it were not for those times, I would not have written my book, and potentially I would not be talking to you, or I would not. There's so many, all of them play a part on each other. And so just really being reminded on almost celebrating the hard times as much as I celebrate the times that
Yeah.
are, yeah, the good times are the ones that are easily celebrated.
Yeah. So, hey, so you mentioned your book. How can people get connect with you, learn more about EOS, which is the entrepreneurial operating system
Yeah.
that you operate in your book? Can you tell us about that briefly?
Yeah, you can visit howtosmartquit.com for my book, and it's available on all the Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, Audible, so you can go anywhere like that. And yeah,
Mhm.
connect with me on LinkedIn or social media at DreaLynn.co, or DreaLynn.co is my website as well. And yeah, I would love to connect with anyone and everyone. So always good.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure. I know that we could keep going,
I
but
know.
we could keep going and maybe we should do that. Maybe we should connect, but
It has
let's,
definitely been a pleasure, Paul. Thank you for having me.
yeah, it's been a pleasure for me too. So what makes your story so powerful isn't that entrepreneurship was hard. It's what you really experienced. It was the journey. And it's what you already understood systems and what reality surprised you, but you were able to eventually say, hey, wait a minute, I should run my own systems. And I think a lot of operators can and entrepreneurs can relate to that and see themselves in your story. So thank you for so much for sharing that. And remember, faith and action go hand in hand. So keep the pedal to the metal. Until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show, I'm Paul Guyan and Drea Lynn. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
God bless you too. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyan, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.